What's up y'all and welcome back to my channel. Salut à tous et bienvenue sur ma chaîne. So this is a super random video. I actually just got inspired to film this for you guys and just talk to you guys more about my journey and my evolution as a entrepreneur and as a person. I'm actually super surprised that so many people sent me so many personal messages after watching my morning routine, as well as the video that I made when I started making some extra coin, and just them starting their own 21-day challenge and just being inspired by things that I was doing to develop myself. And consistently in the messages that I've been getting from you guys, everyone has been asking, why did you stop listening to music, and why did you stop watching TV, and how did that relate to your success and your manifestation of $10,000. Not listening to music or watching TV for that 21 days led me to consuming knowledge and information and content that was going to elevate me spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, and financially. And it just led me to the tools that allowed me to manifest the things that I desired. And at that time, it was $10,000. Now, in that 21 days, I replaced my music, my TV, and my social media for podcasts, motivational interviews, and books about business and personal development. What you consume on a daily basis becomes your own reality. And there are people who, and this is only from my experience, I'm not saying that if you don't listen to music and you don't watch TV for 21 days, your life is gonna change. That's not what I'm saying, but I'm only talking about from my own experience. And when I replaced that type of information with information that was gonna lead me to what I desired at the time, everything changed for me. At the time, I really wanted to start a business, and I felt like I was looking how to start a business on social media, which is a great way, but I was also falling into the trap of comparing what I wanted to somebody else's, comparing my business to somebody else's, trying to do things the way they were doing things, looking for success in other people's businesses and trying to mimic that and put my own twist on it. So once I decided to basically stop consuming that type of information and consuming information that was gonna enlighten me personally, I just started coming up with ideas on my own that were beneficial for me. I started my first company when I was 21 years old, and that started after my 21-day challenge, and I was able to sit down and focus and come out with a social media strategy, come up with digital campaigns. I was able to find products. I was able to become more focused. I didn't suffer from any self-doubt, and I was able to thrive. If you guys want a video on how I started my business, what the business was, how much money I made, and all of that, I can record that for, I think, you know what, I'm gonna actually record that after this video. So for that 21 days, the book that I read was Think and Grow Rich. And at the time, I was not a reader at all. I hated reading, but in every single interview that I was watching before I started this 21-day challenge, everyone pretty much said to read something early in the morning that's gonna elevate their way of thinking. I knew that if I wanted to change, there was gonna be some habits I needed to change, so I decided to actually read the book. Another thing is, if you really don't like reading the books, then you could also listen to them. There's so many different ways to listen to books. My two favorites are either on YouTube, if there's an actual good audiobook on the book that I'm interested in, or Audible. I like Audible because you can skip through the chapters, you can save certain points, you can send it to a friend, and it's easy to kind of start where you left off. But really, don't have a closed mind to reading books, because once you find a book that interests you and it grows you as a person and helps you develop into a different person, you're gonna become addicted to reading more information, especially if you're not used to people speaking to you in a certain type of way or feeding you the information that's given in these type of books. I personally had a great household environment as far as people who believed in me and allowed me to grow and thrive creatively. But as far as the information I needed to develop as an entrepreneur and as a new business owner, that information wasn't fed to me, and it was definitely not taught, even though I went to college and I got my degree in business marketing. So when I started reading these books about these self-made entrepreneurs and how they basically went about building their empire, it allowed me to identify with them at starting from It allowed me to identify with them because they started at ground zero and they had a limited amount of information and they made changes and I was making changes. So it just inspired me to keep learning and to keep growing. And I always feel weird when I record these videos because I'm nowhere near where I want to be as a person spiritually, mentally, and career-wise. But I also know that I'm much farther from where I started and I've grown so much as a person. So the messages that I get from you guys when I share these stories, because these are sensitive stories to share online with anybody watching it, it inspires me that my story inspires you, because this is just things that I do daily. Simple habits that I've changed for myself and ideas that I've implemented by just watching and studying people who I aspire to be like or be similar to. Another reason why I decided to turn to these mentors for 21 days and only consume and listen to and only listen to the things that they were saying and the things they were teaching made me implement those things in my life every single day. I started going to the gym every morning. I started journaling. I started doing things as I thought them, instead of saying, oh, I'm gonna do that later, I'm gonna do it next week, or I'm gonna wait for the perfect time. I really allowed myself to grow so much mentally in those 21 days. And after those 21 days ended, I realized that these were habits that I needed to implement in my daily regimen every single day, because it did so much for me. One of the biggest reasons why I did this is because I just found myself in an environment that wasn't aligned with what I wanted in life. Now, there's no problem with people having different goals and different dreams than me or than you, but it can be frustrating and very limiting when you have these ideas and you have these questions and you have a different way of thinking, but you have no one to talk to about that. And for me, I knew that there was no excuse for me not to get to where I wanted to be with all the information that's out there. Turning myself away from the world that I knew for 21 days and putting myself in a position to talk to these mentors and listen to these mentors and be guided by these mentors who obviously don't know me, allowed me to feel like there was somebody or something that I could talk to. And even though that might sound weird, I had to realize that my environment that I was in, and my environment wasn't crazy and it wasn't bad. I have a great mom, I have a great family, but I also realized that some of the things that I wanted, I didn't really know who I could talk to about those things, because one, the internet and the digital space is very new, and two, I wasn't around and I don't really have entrepreneurs in my family. I didn't know how to open up my business when I started. I didn't know how to file a LLC when I started. I didn't know how to find products when I started. I didn't know how to run digital campaigns when I started. If you just really separate yourself from what you know and what you're comfortable with doing, and you set a goal for yourself, and every single day you work at that, there's no reason why you can't manifest anything that you desire. Through my own experience, I felt like there were a lot of excuses that I was making for myself as to why I wasn't doing certain things or why I wasn't going for certain things, but I had to soon realize that information is available for everyone. And if you're gonna let your current environment stop you from where you wanna go, then you're not gonna go that far. So instead of making excuses and instead of saying, well, I don't have the resources to do X, Y, and Z, I created those resources for myself. I needed to immerse myself in the habits, the regimens, and the routines of people who I aspired to be similar to mentally and spiritually. Through wanting to be immersed into everything that they were doing and basically mimicking their habits, for 21 days just being an open book and trying out new things, I learned that those habits were consistent for a lot of different people. And because they were consistent for multiple people who I found to be inspiring, I decided to implement them into my own daily habits. And it allowed me to figure out things that worked for me and things that didn't work for me. And even though this might sound crazy that for 21 days you can't listen to music or you can't watch TV or you can't go on Instagram, I needed to be comfortable with being uncomfortable in order to grow. I was at the point where I was just tired of my environment and the things that I was doing and the money that I was making and the people that I was surrounded by. So I had I had to make changes for myself, and there was no excuses as to why I couldn't go where I wanted to go, because I knew that if somebody else could do it, I could do it too. I knew that my current reality wasn't my destiny, and the only way that I could change that was if I changed myself. So with all the information that I learned in 21 days, there were a lot of things that did not work for me, and there were a lot of things that did work for me. One thing that worked for me 100%, and something that I continue to do to this day, 2-3 years later, I read every single morning. I feel like reading something inspiring, or reading something, a story of somebody else's success, only makes you believe that you can do the same thing, or you have the ability to be so focused and so regimented that accomplish anything that you want. At the end of the day, y'all, we all got the same 24 hours. So with all that being said, I hope that you guys decide to do something different today to receive something different than what you're currently experiencing. It's crazy how when you become more enlightened and you obtain more knowledge and more information, and you change your mindset, there's so many things that are available to change for you. You can manifest anything that you want. There's no crazy dream. There's no dream that's too big for you. I was able to do it. At the time, I was working 2 jobs. I was in college. I was living in Compton in my family home. I was broke. I didn't have anything going for myself, but I knew I was destined for much more. And I continue to challenge myself every single day, and I hope you guys do the same. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next upload. Bisous!